Gather round the campfire, friends. This is the tale of a girl named Lucie Blackman, who got herself into a super sketchy situation in Tokyo that ended in straight-up horror movie level madness. Lucie is from this little town called Sevenoaks in southeast England. Lucie comes from a nice middle-class family and works an office job in the big city. But in the year 1999, she decided that she needed some adventure. She ditches her office life and becomes an air hostess, flying all over with British Airways. But that wasn't exciting enough for Miss Blackman. In 2000, she jet sets off to Tokyo with her bestie Louise to really stir things up. The two Brits lived the hostess life in Japan, clubbing and partying with wealthy Japanese businessmen. These exclusive clubs paired hot girls with lonely guys to drink and chat in English and show them a good time. The dudes would shower the ladies with gifts and attention in return. The girls weren't expected to get frisky if they didn't want to. Still, Lucie knew it could get a little sketchy at times. She emailed a friend saying, "It's not my dream job, but hey, easy money." Girl needed to fund her lifestyle somehow. At one of these fancy schmancy hostess bars called Club Casablanca, Miss Blackman meets this smooth dude in his 40s, clearly rolling in it. He's way higher class than the usual wasted salarymen in bad suits, knocking back drinks and leering at the foreign ladies. Lucie digs his whole vibe and arranges a special date known as a dohan. This was next level. Japanese men paying stupid sums to take girls to dinner, shopping sprees, basically treating them like royalty for a day. Little did Lucie know, this fancy fella had some sinister secrets. On July 1st, 2000, our doomed damsel meets Mr. Hotshot for their special date, rocking a sexy outfit and her best heels. She calls up her friend Louise, later gushing about how much of a total gentleman this guy was. She said they were stepping out of Tokyo for a bit, but she'd be back to hit the club later that night. Only thing is, Lucie never showed up. Louise waits and waits, blowing up Lucie's phone, but she never answers. Next morning, she files a missing persons report with the Japanese police, but they are not interested. Japan is strict about foreigners coming to work illegally on tourist visas, then pulling disappearing acts. Louise was freaking out though, kept pressing them to take it seriously. She had to get Lucie's sister Sophie to fly out from England before the police finally filed a report. But they weren't in any rush to solve this thing. What the Japanese police did start hustling on, though, was investigating some creepy businessman named Joji Obara. This rich playboy dude with a huge fortune had been racking up charges for drugging hostesses from Tokyo clubs. He earns himself the nickname, the Beast with the Human Face. The cops find all kinds of freaky torture videos in his apartment. Unconscious girls tied up. This monster in a mask pumping them full of chloroform mid-assault. Police also dug up notebooks full of all the Tokyo women Joji had lured back over 10 years, some with creepy comments like, "Too much chloroform, couldn't revive this one." As they put together his sick history, they discover he straight up murdered one of his victims before. An Australian backpacker named Carita Ridgway died from organ failure after Joji used too much chloroform on her and ditched her at the hospital in 1992. As months go by, Lucie's family is bugging out hard. They kick up noise trying to keep her case in the headlines and pressure the cops, even getting the UK Prime Minister Tony Blair to ask Japan's president for help. Lucie's dad, Tim, offers a huge reward, which yields some leads but eventually takes them nowhere. He even hires a private detective, who digs up a police sketch of Joji that makes the rounds, but again, no Lucie. By October 2000, 7 months after she vanished, they finally find her body, buried in a sand cave right near Joji's beach house. And I do mean buried. Chopped up in pieces, limbs and head wrapped in plastic bags. Her skull totally encased in concrete. Police guessed the saw marks likely matched up with a chainsaw Joji was caught buying right after she disappeared. But you couldn't pry a confession out of this stone-cold psycho, though. Joji stuck to his story, saying he and Lucie just hung out and chilled that first night, but she got high on ecstasy and left without him. He had zero explanation for why the cops had found some of her personal items in his house, or why she wound up disposed of down the street. This is where the story takes an even more shocking turn. Joji, desperate to avoid charges for Lucie's death, starts offering insane amounts of money to her parents if they back off. We're talking anywhere from $200,000 to over $500,000. He never outright admitted guilt though, claiming it was just his way of expressing condolences. Lucie's mom, Jane, is disgusted and shuts down his attempts quick. But a few years later, headline news: Lucie's dad, Tim, goes behind Jane's back and accepts a $600,000 payout from Joji. Bro straight up made bank off his own daughter's murder case before it even went to trial. Jane was livid, saying Tim betrayed Lucie's memory. Most of the public felt the same, thinking there was no way a grieving parent would take hush money if they truly wanted justice. Tim didn't give two craps though, said he was still convinced of Joji's guilt and simply saw the money as owed damages. He lost a ton paying for private investigators and trips to Japan over the years. In his mind, Joji was gonna be found guilty regardless, so why not stick that creep for all he could? In the end, Tim's greed couldn't sway the court's decision, but it likely turned Japanese officials against him. The Blackman family fought Joji's legal team for 7 grueling years as more victims kept coming forward. But when the verdict for Lucie's murder finally arrived in 2007, total disappointment. Joji escaped charges for Lucie's death completely due to lack of evidence. Her relatives were crushed. All signs pointed to this rich Tokyo psycho. Lucie's belongings in his place, phone records proving she was there when she went missing, timelines lining up perfect. But none of it met Japan's threshold for murder without a confession. Joji walked free on that count due to slipping through on technicalities. So in the end, beast with a human face, Joji Ibara's only punishment for Lucie was 13 years in jail for hiding her corpse. The only silver lining is the courts finally convicted Joji as Lucie's killer a couple years later. Although the Blackmans still can't help feeling like because Lucie was an outsider, officials turned a blind eye early on, then blocked accountability later to cover their own shady indifference.